Hello from Brussels this time. My name is Alen, and welcome to another podcast, Stories from the Balkans, within the EU Mentorship Program, funded by the European Liberal Forum and organized and implemented by the Boris Divkovic Foundation from Sarajevo. Today, we have two guests from Bosnia and Herzegovina with me. We have Ahmed Kosovac,
Yes.
exactly, and Anes Hodžić as well. Our topic for today is youth activism, particularly youth activism in the field of politics. So I have a few questions for you, and you are the right persons to answer these questions because you are very involved locally in the politics. So let's start, Anes, with you. How would you describe, generally speaking, the state of youth activism in the country, particularly in the field of politics? There are some statistics here. For example, only 3% of the Bosnian youth are engaged directly in the world of politics, particularly within political parties. So from your experience from the ground, how would you describe it?
Well, I would say that youth in Bosnia and Herzegovina today basically has three ways to go. One way is now the most common way is to go outside of the country to say, I don't care about anything in this country, I don't want to change anything, I want to go somewhere else. The other way is for you to say, okay, I'm fine with the system, I'll try to mingle my way through it. And the third and the most difficult way is the way that you mentioned, to get engaged, to get into politics, to get into the NGO. And today I must say this sector is not as thriving as it was in some earlier period, like period 2005-2015, where we've seen a lot of new youth organizations popping up. But I would say that there was some switch of youth going from those NGO sectors in that period to youth going into politics, into that kind of activism. And from that aspect, I would say that the political youth sector in Bosnia and Herzegovina is now very vibrant. And we have a lot of workshops, a lot of seminars, a lot of different events that try to connect people from different political parties, from youth organizations, and to have their opinions heard, to exchange their positions and so on. So basically, I think the situation is now good, but in order to make it even better, to make those 3% of you that are active much larger and much more active in politics, I would say that we need to fight our way, and we don't see that many young people fighting their way. Most of them seem to be entitled, seem to just expect some positions to be given, and I think that in order to have more youth engaged, we have to show them that it's possible to go from youth politics to some, let's say, more serious politics.
And Ahmed, being elected by the citizens of Novo Sarajevo 2 years ago at the local elections in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and working on the ground and being member of Naša stranka, how would you describe the youth within political party, particularly within the strategies and documents? Is there any obstacles, or is there any chances to improve the position of the youth within this particular political party?
Youth in our party is represented. We have a youth wing, which is, I always like to kind of document youth and women in a similar way and compare it. And when I look at it like that, we have a youth wing, but we don't have a women's wing. And in that sense, if we look at the elected persons and if we look at the numbers, they are not really good for the youth. I have to be quite honest. Though I think the biggest reason why that is problematic, not just in Naša stranka, but in any other political party in Bosnia and Herzegovina, is because youth is not involved enough. I think the aspects of having youth wings is kind of problematic in political parties in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but because youth is usually gathered around those youth wings and not they are not involved enough in the political party, like mother political party, and that can be a problem for political parties and those who are elected. You mentioned that I am elected in local municipality in Novo Sarajevo. I was 7th on the list, and only 5 of us came into the municipality council, so I had to fight my way in. And I think that's really important when we are talking about youth in politics, to have in mind that we have to fight and not just expect political party to give us anything. So in that sense, my biggest point would be that youth and suggestion to young people who are young and going into politics, maybe two things. First is to educate themselves, because you can always learn, especially when you are young and when you're starting your political career. And second thing is to fight. We had good example in this elections now in October, where one young politician from Social Democratic Party went from a 10th place to second place in terms of the votes, and he I think is the 5th person in Social Democratic Party, which is a big party in our country in terms of the votes. And he did all of that by himself. He did his own campaign, and in that sense, I think that they are good examples that we can follow. And if we really want to be involved in the party, to be asked by the party, we have to work really hard, and we have to show with our example that we care and that we want to be there and kind of make decisions.
But speaking of the general outlook of the political landscape in Bosnia and Herzegovina, just to add on that, do you think there are some prejudices by the general public toward young politicians, young political leaders, and females as well in the politics? We still expect, or maybe I'm wrong, expect a male leaders to be in front. So do you have to fight additionally to show that you actually care as well, or you don't see that on the ground?
Prejudice are always present in every society, and unfortunately there is a lot of prejudice in terms of the women in politics in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the whole region, I would say. I'm not sure about the youth. When you look at what people actually want, they're always saying, we want young people in the parliaments. They're always saying that. So in that sense, I really think that that message should be heard by young people, and then they should say, okay, people want us, we have to fight for ourselves and stuff like that. It's more hard to be women than to be young person in politics.
And if I may add on this note, for example, when we have some young person who is very talented in biology, we all want that person to go to the best schools. When you have some young person who is good at some kind of sports, we want that person to go to best clubs. But when there's some young person who shows talent and interest for politics, most of the older people here say, don't go there, it's a dirty job, let other people do it, and so on. I think that we have to embrace politics as just another thing that young people would like to do, that they would like spend their time, and we have to encourage them to go into politics and not to tell them, okay, don't do that, that's not for you.
And now let's talk a bit about the region. As you are involved with the Boris Divkovic Foundation, Boris Divkovic Foundation has been implementing so many regional projects with liberal parties, forces, and activists across the region. What would you say? What is the future of liberal forces across the region, including Serbia, North Macedonia, and the rest of the Western Balkans?
Well, from my perspective, I was a little bit skeptical, seeing the results that liberal parties had in the region in Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. But when I started coming to these kinds of workshops where I would meet young people from these kinds of countries, I have to tell you my opinion changed. And when we say that youth are the future, I can testify that they are, because I think that in the next elections, that the young generations of young liberal politicians coming out of these workshops and seminars, that they will have much better career, that they will get much more votes, and they will be much more successful than their predecessors. So I would say I'm optimistic when it comes to this.
Ahmed, will you agree with this?
It's a bit easier for Anes and I to talk, because we are coming from our party, which is the strongest liberal force in the Balkans. So in that sense, it's a bit easier from us to talk and from our position. But I would say that there is always enough place for liberals. They just have to be really principled, and they have to stand on their grounds and not to not to kind of flirt with nationalism and similar things. That's especially important in the Balkans, because what happened in the 90s are still kind of luring after the Balkans. And if we are trying to flirt with nationalism, if we are making coalitions that are not good, that are mathematical and similar things, I don't think that we can actually stand on our grounds and kind of have a good results in 4 years and similar things. Unfortunately, to other political parties, it's a lot easier. They can do whatever they want, and people will vote for them for their populism and similar things. We have example of DF, Demokratska Fronta, which is saying that they are građanska stranka, that they are for the public and similar things. But at the same time, I'm not sure how they are doing that by coalition with SDA and similar things. So in that sense, mathematical coalition, which is important to add. So I would suggest that if liberal forces want to be good in the Balkans, they really need to hold their grounds on their principles. They have to have red lines and to not cross them, and of course not to flirt with nationalism, which is unfortunately really strong in the Balkans.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was another episode of the Stories from the Balkans. My name is Alen, Anes, and Ahmed. So 3 A's for today. Thank you. Bye.